Mr. Gottlieb, with that primer, please answer the question of whether Governor Romney can overcome some of the issues in his past with your group.
Well, I think when listening to comments of NRA members who have attended the NRA convention, I think he can overcome it two ways. One, he's not hostile to gun rights. And the second thing is the average gun owner is a little upset with Barack Obama, particularly his appointments to the federal courts, Supreme Court on down. And as you're aware, there's a significant number of Second Amendment court cases the Second Amendment Foundation and other groups have filed that are going through the court system, and the gun owners are concerned about who's going to be making those rulings on the federal benches.
Mr. Gottlieb, isn't the issue with President Obama in the minds of Second Amendment advocates always what he's going to do, what he might do, as compared to what he has done? I mean, has he done something thus far that you believe threatens Second Amendment rights?
Well, the main thing, of course, is the anti-gun judges he's appointed to the federal courts. But if you look at his record both as a United States Senator and he was in the state Senate in Illinois, he was extremely hostile to gun rights. He hasn't exactly been a friend of gun rights with some executive orders banning certain imports of antique firearms almost into the United States. And his calls, you know, his administration has been putting out test balloons to try and reinstitute the so-called Clinton administration's ban on semi-automatic firearms. As a result, we know where his heart is. We know where his head is. We know he's met with anti-gun groups. He's not met with any pro-gun rights leaders at all. He's basically told the other side that when the time's right, he'll push for his agenda. But right now, of course, the current makeup of the House of Representatives makes it very difficult for him to get an anti-gun legislation passed.
Mayor Rendell, you follow my point. I remember there was a run on ammunition in 2008. In fact, I think talk show hosts are the ones who propelled that. It's always that he's going to come for your bullets, he's going to come for your guns, but the reality is that the Obama administration hasn't moved on the gun issues. Do you disagree?
No, I don't. But let me say one thing quickly first, Michael. Those of us who believe in the Second Amendment but also believe in gun control know that the Second Amendment, like all amendments, has its limits. The First Amendment very clearly spells out the right to free speech, but you can't go into a crowded movie theater and cry fire. You're not allowed to do that because there are limits. And there are limits on what is reasonable gun ownership. And that's all we're trying to do. And take the Gabby Giffords case. The president dropped the ball there by not pushing hard enough to support legislation which would have reinstituted part of the assault weapons ban that would have banned these multiple bullet magazines. The magazine that the killer in Gabby Giffords' case used that had 33 bullets in it. Before the assault weapons ban was dropped by the Congress, it wasn't reinstituted, but we had a ban that said you could only have a magazine with 11 bullets. Had that ban been in effect that day, people in Arizona would be alive today who died that day.
Well, that's my question. Why has the gun debate dropped off the radar? I'll give you some examples of folks who've addressed this. In today's Daily Beast, New York City Mayor Michael Bloomberg writes, to hear most pundits and political strategists tell it, Americans are hopelessly divided by guns, but we're not. Polls show that NRA members support common sense steps to ensure that guns are kept out of the hands of criminals, and gun issues have not headlined President Obama's agenda. One other thing, if I may, Mayor, in today's L.A. Times, law professor Adam Winkler says, quote, few presidents have shown as little interest in gun control as Barack Obama. It's as if avoid gun control at all costs has become a plank in the Democratic Party platform. Go ahead and react.
Well, first of all, Michael Bloomberg is...
Mr. Gottlieb, you'll respond in one moment. Go ahead, Mayor.
They're not a loser. Guys like Mr. Gottlieb and the NRA are very effective at spinning and lobbying. But take a law that I tried to get instituted in Pennsylvania, one handgun a month, barring people from buying more than one handgun a month. That would stop straw purchasers. 40% of our crime guns in Pennsylvania come from straw purchasers, but it would have allowed you to buy 12 handguns a year, 24 if you're married. That's no limitation at all in a practical sense. So 70% of Pennsylvanians, including 60% of Republicans, favored that law. I couldn't even get it out of committee because everyone is afraid because the NRA has done such a good job of spooking our cowardly legislators.
Mr. Gottlieb, the success I think that you've had is with this mindset of the slippery slope. You can't give an inch because if we give anything on any issues, then it will be the ammunition, then it will be the weapons, and that's worked.
Well, unfortunately, we've seen that happen not only in the United States but in other countries as well. But what the former governor is talking about here, though, is prior restraint, limiting how many guns you can buy, limiting what kind of ammunition you can use, limiting the size of your magazines. You know, we never put up with prior restraint with the First Amendment. Granted, you can't yell fire in a crowded theater. You also can't use the gun to go murder somebody illegally. But you don't take the gun away ahead of time. You don't take free speech away ahead of time either. And that's what the Democrats have
Mr. Gottlieb, let me ask you a simple question. Why would any law-abiding citizen need a magazine that has 33 bullets in it?
Why? I like to go out to a gun range and shoot. Why? Because I happen to like to go out to a gun range and shoot, and for target practice, certain guns that I have are much more easy to use by using a higher capacity magazine.
You mean it's too much trouble at a gun range to ask him to insert 3 11-shot magazines? It's too much of an inconvenience?
Governor,
that's baloney. That's just plain baloney.
Governor, law-abiding citizens using magazines that fire more than 10 rounds is not a problem. The problem is keeping the criminals off the street.
Right, and the assault weapons ban keeps those magazines out of the hands of crazy guys like the guy who shot Gabby Giffords.
Wait, Mayor Rendell, I want to ask you this question if I might. Mr. Gottlieb, hold your thought. Just hold your thought for a moment. As governor of Pennsylvania, you vetoed Stand Your Ground. Am I correct? And it was your successor, Tom Corbett, who came in and signed it into law. I guess you're looking like a soothsayer, unfortunately, in the aftermath of Trayvon Martin. My question for you, though, is this. Do you think that the Trayvon Martin case is going to cause a re-examination, a serious re-examination of Stand Your Ground in those states across the country that now have it on their books?
I hope so, and Mayor Bloomberg has called for that. And let me say this. It's interesting on the Stand Your Ground legislation. Every police group in Pennsylvania and the Pennsylvania District Attorneys Association, made up of 50 Republican DAs and 17 Democratic DAs, all urge me to veto it. So why don't we listen to law enforcement, Mr. Gottlieb? They're telling us we've got to do something to stop gun violence. Why don't we listen to the police and DAs?
Mr. Gottlieb?
It's great. It's great to listen to the police, but we also don't want a police state. We enjoy freedom in America. We're not like a lot of other countries run by despots and dictators. That's why.
Mr. Gottlieb, a very quick final question, if I might, for you. I just want to return to this issue of what the president is about to do. The president doesn't know if he's getting a second term. So if he were the Manchurian candidate prepared to do evil things, wouldn't he do them now while he's in office and not await a potential second term?
Good question. The real battle right now is in the courts. And if you take a look at the appointments that Barack Obama has appointed to the federal courts, you can't find one person who supports